All right, guys, just me tonight. Jim, as we know, or some of you know, is in Cabo. I can't figure out my background either because when it's only one person, as you'll see, the background is all screwed up, but whatever. Uh, we'll make do with it. John Schaefer with you. It is the wrap up show. Please subscribe if you're a Padres fan. All right. We're doing this year round, almost every single day. So please subscribe if you're a Padres fan. Padres fall tonight 4-3 in extras to Milwaukee. A little bit of a disappointing result considering the Trent Grisham home run tied it up, but the Padres could not get over the hump. They lose game one of this 4-game series 4-3. Please subscribe. Smash the like button for me. Follow us on Twitter at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. Really do appreciate the supers on a night like tonight because it's going to be hard for me to keep up with the chat. I will see the supers. It'll be really hard to keep up with the chat. So if you do want to support the channel, if you do want to contribute, just click the $sign in the chat box down below. And of course, we appreciate the memberships as well. Click join down below. You can become a member, get custom emojis and badges. So there's a lot to get into. And as you make your way in, please comment in the chat and we'll get into everything and we'll try to get to as much as we can here tonight. Initial takeaway here tonight is this. Offensively at home, obviously there have been some struggles. There were a couple of, there was some good and there was some bad in here, and we'll get into Tatis as well. First and foremost, you're 7-7 overall. It's not the end of the world. It's obviously not the end of the world. Is it fully clicking right now? No, it's not. Is there something that's off with this team right now? I think you could argue it. I think not having Joe Musgrove, a leader, is, I think it's been an issue. The fact that we haven't seen Tatis as of yet, Robert Suarez, right? So I think there's a number of things. I think also it's early, and 7-7 is not the end of the world. But, you look at a game like this, and they went from the first inning to the seventh inning without a hit. Machado homer is great. Grisham home run was a huge spot. I mean, a 2-out, 2-run home run in the eighth inning. You need to find a way to win a game when you have positive momentum like that. Hader, a scoreless ninth inning. And, you allow a run in the top of the 10th inning, and then you have a runner cut down at third base in the bottom of the 10th inning. And that, for all intents and purposes, puts you behind the eight ball, and the Padres, lose 4-3 in this game. So, curious to get your thoughts, obviously, on this one. Just looking at the box score here tonight, 6 hits in 10 innings. Now, Milwaukee had 6 hits in 10 innings too, but, some of this offense is not turning over. Every time Juan Soto takes a step forward, you could argue there's a step back. Obviously, Xander Bogaerts has been incredibly valuable for this team. 2 more hits tonight. Machado's first home run, it took to his 14th game to homer. He was 1 for 4 with that solo home run. Grisham, obviously, the biggest hit of the night for the Padres. Cronenworth's sitting under 200. Ha-Seong Kim was 0 for 4. Rougned Odor was 0 for 3. Austin Nola is hitting 100. So, there's been some offensive struggles. On the mound, I thought Nick Martinez was good enough. I really did. I mean, he gave you 6 innings. I thought that should have been enough. I think the bullpen, by and large, is good in this game. Wilson, Hill, Hader, Garcia. The run that Garcia allowed, obviously, with the runner at second in the 10th inning is an unearned run. So, it's one of those nights where I said this earlier today on radio. And again, guys, as you make your way in, please subscribe. Smash the like button for me. Follow us on Twitter at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. Thank you for your support of the channel with the super chats. Really do appreciate it. We'll get to all of the supers here tonight. I said this earlier today. I'm trying to remember what I was saying earlier today, though, on John and Jim. I'm already losing my train of thought. This is what happens when I don't have someone to bounce things off with Jim. Trying to think, what was the oh yeah, I know what I said today. You're facing a Brewers team that's going to be good. They were good last year. They weren't great, but they're going to be good. I don't know if they're World Series caliber, but they're certainly playoff caliber. But you kind of had this golden opportunity this weekend, it looked like, because you're not facing Brandon Woodruff, who's been great in 2 starts. He was just placed on the IL. So you miss Woodruff tonight. And you miss Corbin Burnes this series as well, because they've moved everyone back a day. Burnes could have been available to pitch Sunday in this series, but they've moved him back until Monday. So knowing that you're going to miss the 2 aces for Milwaukee, you're thinking, well, maybe this is a chance to win a series. Now, it's not easy to take 3 out of 4 against any team in the big leagues, but against a good team, obviously that's not easy. And again, they don't have to take 3 out of 4 in this series, but it just seemed like, hey, maybe this is a nice time to get Milwaukee at home, considering you're not getting Woodruff or Burnes, but Milwaukee takes game 1 of the series. So a little bit disappointing considering You have the pitching matchups kind of work in your favor. You're facing Colin Ray, who's had no success in the big leagues. You look at his career big league numbers; he's had no success. And tonight, 1 run in 5 2/3 innings, and that's just not good enough for the offense. And there's excuses, but they go both ways. Yeah, it's 55 degrees out. Yeah, it's cloudy. Yeah, there's marine layer, but there's 45,000 people there, and you got to find a way to manufacture more than 2 hits against Colin Ray. Simple as that. All right, let's get this thing started with the first super of the night. We'll tell you about all of our partners here. If you want to join us in a daily fantasy contest with Underdog Fantasy, click the pinned chat at the top. Underdog Fantasy 3-person contest is going on right now. Just click the link up above. It is pinned at the top of the chat. Use promo code PODSWRAP if you want a 100% deposit match as well, up to $100. Again, PADSWRAP. Okay, Nick, thank you for your super chat. Really do appreciate the supers tonight. Thank you, guys. Appreciate Nick with the first super here of the night. He says, do the Padres not know or care how to play small ball? Down a run in the 10th, that was frustrating. Well, they've had serious struggles with men in scoring position. Let's see. Here tonight, they were 0 for 3. I want to say they were 0 for 7 yesterday in New York. They're hitting about 200 as a team. They came into tonight 205 as a team with men in scoring position. They go 0 for 3. So they're probably in that 201, 202, 203 range right now. So that's a problem. The small ball, I think at times, Nick, you're right. It's not just hitting with men in scoring position. It's moving runners. It's getting runners in. There have been times it's worked out. It seems like by and large, these first 14 games, it really hasn't worked out very well. Down around the 10th inning, there's some interesting strategies here. You've already used, let's see, you had already used your 4th reliever in Garcia. I don't think you're playing for a tie in that spot at home. I mean, you certainly could. You could play to get a runner over to 3rd with only 1 out and try to tie the score. Or you could play for a 2-run inning and try to end the game. If you go deeper into your bullpen, you'd be using your, let's see, 6th pitcher of the night, 5th reliever of the night, which is better than losing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd prefer to use a 5th reliever, even if Garcia pitches 2nd inning, as opposed to lose the game 4-3. I don't think I'm playing really, am I bunting whomever over there, Dixon? Am I bunting Dixon to 3rd with 1 out to try to tie the score and live to see another inning? I don't know. I mean, I think I'm probably playing to win in that spot, but whatever happened obviously didn't work out. Dixon running on a ball hit behind him makes sense. Adames made a good throw. I saw, people were saying, hey, that should have been challenged. Looked like Dixon was in there safe. I mean, watching it live and then again on replay, it didn't appear to me as if he was safe. If someone has a photo or an angle or a video, tag me on Twitter. I'll take a look at it. I think it might have been a tough challenge to win if you're the Padres, but maybe I missed it. I was trying to do multiple things at once. Maybe I missed it, but yeah, just frustrating. I mean, clearly a very frustrating 10th inning for the Padres. I'm looking at the chat right now. Yeah, like I'm with Brent, and thank you, Nick, and thank you guys. I don't know why why would I bunt there? I mean, that's not really the home strategy in extra inning games. If you look at the last 3 or 4 years in baseball, when teams are trailing by a run in that spot, they're not usually trying to tie the score. I mean, it's April, whatever. You're playing for an 11th inning. I mean, you're playing a win, is what I would think in that spot. Yeah, you'd prefer an 11th than losing the game. But yeah, I'm not really bunting in that spot now. Some people disagree. Some people say that's baseball 101. You get the runner over. Yeah, I don't know about in that spot, to be honest. I don't know if that's the spot to get a runner over. Now, this whole idea of the challenge, I need to see. I mean, I need to see it. I need to see it again. Is that the common thought here tonight, guys? I mean, should this play have been challenged? Was he clearly safe? Was there evidence? Was there video evidence to show that he would have been safe? I don't know. I didn't see it. So maybe there was. But from what I saw, it didn't appear to me that was going to be a challenge that they were going to win. And maybe I missed something. Yeah, I'm with you too, Chris. I mean, it's true. I mean, what is there to lose? Nothing. But I mean, was it going to be overturned? I mean, the throw beat him by a mile. So I just don't know if it would have been overturned or not in that spot. Let's see here. Again, as you make your way in, guys, subscribe, Smash the like button. Follow us on Twitter. Appreciate the super chats. Click the $sign below the chat box. I don't really think it comes down to that. I mean, when I think about this game, I don't think about the fact that Bomel didn't challenge in that spot because I don't think he would have won the challenge. It comes down to a couple things. The fact is, the Padres, it's interesting. I mean, they've been a little bit helter-skelter. They had some games in Atlanta where they scored some runs. At home, this has continued now for a second consecutive season, it appears, where, they're struggling to score on offense at home. There's reasons. This happens in April. It happens in May. It's not a great hitter's yard the first couple of months of the season. And it seems like it gets to him to some extent, to be honest. Now, again, Machado tonight homers, Grisham tonight homers. Soto had a couple of opportunities in this game, batting in a big spot. Again, Bogarts had a good game. Nelson Cruz had a hit in a pretty significant moment, I think in the 7th inning when they had first and second with only one out, but then Cronenworth grounded into a double play. It's tough to overanalyze any one game in any one season, and it's really tough to overanalyze 14 games into the season. I think we have to be honest with each other. I mean, they're 7-7. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's also not the best start in the world. They've been an average team. I don't think they've been better than an average team to this point. I don't think their record should be better than 7-7. Having watched all of these games, there's nothing that tells me the Padres deserve, quote unquote, to be better than 7-7 right now. I don't think they really deserve to be worse than 7-7 right now either. So they are where they are. They'll get reinforcements. Earlier today, Bob Melvin said that Joe Musgrove's going to throw a bullpen tomorrow. We'll see how he does with that. And then they'll announce his next rehab start. And will it be one rehab start or two? But he'll be back sooner rather than later, right? Within the next, let's say, 10 to 15 days. And, you're pushing the end of April, but it's not the end of the world. So you have Musgrove. And then you have Fernando Tatis Jr., which to me is really the story of the night. It's one thing to lose a game to Milwaukee in April. It's another thing to see what Fernando Tatis Jr. is doing right now. And I get it. It's AAA. Is it going to carry over? It may very well not, obviously, but 5 for 6 with 3 home runs in the AAA game and 8 RBIs is ridiculous. And he's really hit since his slow start to spring, whether it was spring training or now in 6 games with El Paso. I mean, the guy's flat out hitting. He's eligible to come off the suspended list a week from today. So we're inside of a week for Fernando Tatis Jr. And maybe that is, the missing piece. Would make sense when you consider how valuable he's been when he's played. So I think Tatis could be the missing piece. I think Musgrove could be the missing piece. Suarez could be the missing piece. We don't know when we're going to see Suarez, obviously. But again, I mean, this team is not 100% healthy. This team is not playing to its full capabilities, clearly. There's no point to make excuses. I mean, Bogarts, Machado, Soto, Cronenworth should be enough to be winning more than half your games. And I think they have enough pitching as well, where the pitching's held up. The Wakas, the Lugos, you got Darvish in there. I mean, even without Musgrove, this is a team, obviously, even if they didn't get Musgrove back for a while, and even if they didn't have Fernando Tatis Jr. like they didn't last year, it shouldn't be a 500 team. They should be much better, obviously, than a 500 team. But again, it's only been, a handful of games at this point, or 2 weeks of games at 7-7. Let's see here. Okay, so I love these conversations. I wish I could put it in the chat. So, okay, I think there's arguments going on because I'm trying to do the show and keep up with the chat. I think people are arguing about whether or not the Padres should have bunted with Cronenworth, with Dixon at second to lead off the bottom of the 10th inning. That's not some asinine decision by Bob Melvin not to bunt. It's just not. I mean, you bunt and get a run on a third, you're not guaranteeing getting the run in. And even if you get the run in, you haven't guaranteed yourself winning the game. What gives you a better chance to win the game? Bunting there or playing for 2 runs, right? I mean, the bunt there doesn't guarantee you anything. It guarantees you 1 out, where if you don't bunt in that spot, you can potentially win the game with 1 swing. Of course, you can lose the game either way. I mean, bunt or no bunt, you can lose the game either way. I think putting it all on Bob Melvin or putting it all on, Jake Cronenworth in that spot, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, we've watched these extra inning games play out for the last 4 or 5 years. That's not a typical bunting spot. Down a run, bottom of the 10th inning. What are you playing for? You're playing to use another reliever and go through the entire thing again in the 11th inning? To me, I'm not going to fault that at all. And you guys know me. If you've been here before, I'll be critical about Melvin. I just don't think not bunting in that spot is a reason to be overly critical of Bob Melvin. I don't think most managers actually in that spot would have bunted in that spot. So let's see what else here in the chat. People saying Cronenworth was 0 for 3. I mean, Jay Cronenworth, you just gave $80 million to. So just because Jay Cronenworth is 0 for 3 doesn't mean he's not capable. First of all, he can get the runner over without bunting, in theory. Or what if he comes up with a base hit and then you're in position to win the game? So I don't see it that way. But again, maybe that's semantics, and that's the beauty of baseball, and that's the back and forth that makes this game, in my opinion, as good as any. But okay, let me while we have a moment here, I do want to remind you about our title sponsor. That is Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance. Listen, guys, if you're here, please support Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance. He's been our title sponsor since day one. If you have any insurance needs, I've got a life insurance policy, I've got homeowners insurance, I have earthquake insurance. Whatever you need, Mark Nimitz is your guy. And he can save you so much money on your insurance just by switching. So the next time you have a renewal, before you just renew, or the next time you need an insurance policy, before you contact someone else, contact Mark Nimitz. He supports this channel. He's a San Diegan. He's a lifelong Padres fan. He can save you $750 or more by switching to your insurance to Mark. He's got great service and communication. Take it from me because I've had these insurance policies with him for the last couple of years. There's a link down below in the description on YouTube to get to Mark Nimitz's website. You can see it on the screen. You can get a quote online as well. So if you support this channel, if you want to support a local San Diego business, please get in contact with Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance. All right, John Schaefer with you, hanging out. Padres lose to the Brewers tonight, game 1 of a 4-game series, 4-3. Game 2, obviously, tomorrow night. This is funny. I'm just looking at the chat. The back and forth on this is really funny. And you know, with all due respect, either way, I get it. You know, you can kick and scream and yell, should have bunted until you're blue in the face. I can kick and scream and yell and say shouldn't have bunted until I'm blue in the face, and that's baseball, right? That really is baseball. So we'll see if they can bounce back. You know, tomorrow, game 2 of a 4-game series, game 2 of a 7-game homestand before they head to the road, where they're going to be in Phoenix to take on the Diamondbacks, Chicago to take on the Cubs, and then Mexico City to take on the Giants. And by the way, tomorrow is former Padre Eric Lauer opposite Michael Wacha. That's your pitching matchup tomorrow, 6:40 down at Petco Park. We're broadcasting, by the way, San Diego Sports 760. Join us at the Blind Burrow. Please make sure to swing by. I'll be broadcasting live 3 to 6. Kevin Acey will be on the show. So make sure to swing by, say hi, grab a drink, grab a bite to eat before you make your way inside Petco tomorrow night. I need to thank Nick again for the super chat. Thank you guys for the super chats. If you want to support, just click the $ below the chat box. Great way to support this channel and the work we do day in and day out. Okay, so Nick says, my point was more the lack of a steal in the 10th inning. A steal in the 10th inning? I'm going back to the way the inning plays out. So the first batter of the inning is Cronenworth. He grounds out to short. They get the out at third. Now you have Cronenworth at first with 1 out. Then I forget who makes the second out, but then you have the Azokar infield single. It's first and second, 2 outs for Campusano. I have that right? So I don't know where the stolen base really factors in, Nick, unless I'm missing something. And put it in the chat if I'm missing something. I don't know where the steal really applies for the Padres in the 10th inning. Someone correct me. Where's the what am I missing on a steal in the 10th inning? Because you got a runner at second to start the inning. I mean, you're not stealing third. So we're saying, yeah, I don't know. So Nick, put another comment in the chat. The specific example of where they should have stolen a base in the 10th inning, or where you would have liked them to see them take another base. If you're saying, well, okay, if you can get Cronenworth to second with 2 outs and then Azokar, but Azokar had an infield hit. You know, so I don't know how it applies or not. Just looking at the chat here. When Jake was on first, he should have stolen. Thank you, Carlos. But how would that have changed the result? So Jake was on first with 1 out. If he was on second with 1 out, well, they never had a ball that left the infield. They would have lost, I think, either way. Um, oh, okay. I got you, Nick. Just thought Jake should have attempted to take second after the Dixon out. Gets it to runner back into scoring position with one out. Yeah, no, understood. Okay, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in an ideal world, you'd prefer to have that, but you can't make the second out there, can you? I mean, you got the tying run at first with only one out. I don't think you can run your way out of that spot, and we'd have to look more at, you know, time to the plate for that reliever who was on, whoever the hell it was after Devin Williams. How good the catcher is. I mean, it's a bit of a leap of faith after you have a runner, thrown out at third to then just try to steal second to get, because it's not apples to apples anymore, because there's one thing to have a runner at third with one out. It's another thing to have a runner at second with one out. You still need a base hit with a runner at second and one out to tie the game. So, yeah, you'd prefer to have the runner at second, because if you get a base hit, then yeah, that's the difference between tying the game and not. But they never had a ball that left the infield. So it happens. I mean, there's really no good choice there. Dixon has a ball hit behind him. What's he supposed to do? When a ball's hit behind you, you're taught to go. Well, Adames, to his credit, made a play that was easy for him. If Dixon goes back to second instinctually, then Adames goes to first, and you have a runner at second and one out, which is better than a runner at first with one out. But either way, you've still taken away the possibility of getting that run in with a sac fly or a ground out. You've taken away the runner at third, one out situation. Once Milwaukee got the first out and eliminated the runner at second base, they had the advantage. And then they ended up, closing the door on the Padres. But I don't think it all comes down to the bottom of the 10th inning at the end of the day. I mean, there were other they really didn't have that many opportunities, to be honest, in this game. Grisham, ties it up, and you just need to find a way after that happens to win the game. I just think after that, you need to find a way to win the game. Appreciate it, though, Nick. Appreciate your super chats. Appreciate your back and forth here tonight on the wrap-up show. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Michael. I am. I'm completely with you. There's no reason. I'll give you some recent examples. I think 2017 Dodgers and 2018 Dodgers both played in the World Series. Both of those teams were under 500, I think 29 games into the season, something like that. Obviously, the Nationals, when they won the World Series, are 10 or 11 games under 500. We've seen wildcard teams since the Nationals won a World Series in Atlanta. I think I have that right. So, I mean, no, there's no reason to be worried. But you still might ask yourself, is this team playing to its abilities? Is this team looking like a team that's going to be, capable of being the last team standing? And they don't have to be capable of that today. It's April, it's not September and it's not October, and this isn't the finished product. And AJ Preller can address needs if he needs to, 3 months from now, even sooner if he so chooses. And he's going to get Fernando Tatis Jr. back, presumably. He's going to get Joe Musgrove back. Hopefully he gets Robert Suarez back. Maybe he gets Drew Pomeranz back. I'll believe it when I see it, as he has like the next strain today before he starts his AAA rehab. So I'm not worried. It's like those things, like it's like we've been talking about this on the radio. It's like when your parents say, like, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. It's almost worse when someone's disappointed in you as opposed to just being mad at you. That's a little bit about how I feel about the Padres right now. It's like, I'm not upset. I don't think they've lost anything at 7-7. In fact, I know they haven't lost anything at 7-7. I'm just a little bit surprised / disappointed at some of the play that I've seen the first 2 weeks of the season. Blake Snell, crazy disappointing. Runners in scoring position, small ball, moving runners, right? There's certain trend lines here through 2 weeks that I think are a bit concerning. And then some of the individual struggles for some of these hitters, the Nolas, the Cronenworths, even a Soto, if you want to go there, even a Machado, who's had 1 home run in 14 games. So, there's some things that you say, well, it could be concerning if it continues. If 14 games turns into, 34 games, I think you could be somewhat concerned or worried. But 14 games, I'm with you, Michael. I'm completely with you. It's just too small of a sample size. I mean, shoot, even if they're at 544 games into the season, what is that? That doesn't mean they're not going to win the World Series. I mean, with all the teams that make the playoffs at the expanded wild card, good teams will find a stretch where they get hot. You only need one 15-3 stretch to create some distance and to, be trending in the right direction. I mean, you could be 30-30, and then all of a sudden you go 15-3 over an 18-game stretch and 12 games over before the halfway point. And then all of a sudden you're on pace to be 24 games over 500 at the end of the year. So no, there's no reason to worry. I agree with you. I think they're capable of playing better than they've played, even without Tatis and Musgrove. But no, I'm with you. I don't think there's any reason to be worried. Brisk, what's going on? Guys, please subscribe, smash the like button, follow us on Twitter at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. Appreciate the supers. Just click the $ below the chat box. Appreciate the memberships. Just click join as well. If you want to join our underdog fantasy contest that's going on for tomorrow, click the link that is pinned at the top of the chat. If you use promo code PODSWRAP, PADSWRAP, you will get a 100% deposit match up to $100 as well. So if you missed it, Jim is currently in Cabo. So Jim is in Cabo for the weekend with his fiance, his future wife. He's like, oh, I'm not going to be by my phone. You won't be able to reach me. I'm not going to be following the Padres. I'm not going to be on Twitter. All he does is text me all night long. He's been on Twitter all day. So he pretends like he's like, oh, Cabo, it's so amazing. And it's like the exact same experience. He should be in the wrap-up show right now. I'm like, dude, get in the wrap-up show. All you're doing is texting me. But, he's pretending like he's having the time of his life in Cabo. So anyway, that's where he is. He'll be back on Monday for the radio show, John and Jim, and then he'll be back here on the wrap-up show on Monday night as well. Let me see here. Let me get caught up in the chat. Let's see here. And let me know if there's anything else we should be discussing here tonight. If you want to get into, we can get into some things. Rodolfo, what's going on? I think he's not being serious. By the way, today, Scott Boras was at Petco Park. It caused a little bit of a stir. It turned out he was there because Juan Soto was being presented with the Silver Slugger Award for 2022. So Scott Boras, Soto's agent, was at Petco today. No extension looming, we don't think. It would have been amazing, though, if there was a Juan Soto extension today with Jim and Cabo. He would have freaked the F out if that happened. But, Soto got the Silver Slugger Award for 2022 today. Scott Boras was in the building. Some other cool things today. Aztecs, we got the SDSU sweatshirt, Padres hat. You had the entire San Diego State basketball team there, the standing ovation, cool video tribute. Brian Dutcher, the head coach, Lamont Butler, who hit the game winner against FAU, both threw out first pitches. The entire team was there in general. I thought it was really cool. They were honored again during the game as well when they showed them in their suite. So that was pretty cool. I thought that was really cool to see San Diegans and Padres fans supporting the Aztecs here tonight. This is possible. Quan, a year ago that did happen. I literally was going to kill him when he entered the show drunk and then literally just ended the stream. And that's why I always like to say Jim's an idiot. What's my favorite thing about Jim when he's not here? Oh man, this is a little bit of a feisty chat tonight, is it not? It appears to be. Ivan or Ivan, I'm assuming Ivan. Has Soto started to lose value? No, I don't think so. I really don't. If at the end of 2023, his numbers are where they are right now, let's say at the end of this season, Soto had let me just pull it up. If Soto had a 784 OPS at the end of the season and, had 20 home runs and 80 RBIs and hit 200, yeah, probably. He's betting on himself, obviously. He could have signed a $440 million deal, maybe larger than that, with the Nationals a couple of years ago. And, that would have been the biggest deal in baseball history, and that wasn't good enough. And he's holding out for more, whether it's more years or more money or a higher AAV. So is there risk there? Yeah, there absolutely is risk. But you're talking about a 24-year-old that posts and stays healthy and gets on base. And I think because of all of that, I know teams are going to bet on Juan Soto's future. I don't know if they're going to bet on his future to the tune of $400 or $500 million. I think the Padres would. I think if Scott Boras and the Padres were at the same table right now, I think the Padres would pony up, even with Soto having performed the way he has in the roughly 80 games he's played as a Padre. I think the Padres probably would pony up if they didn't have to reach even further to do it. If it was quote unquote reasonable, I don't know what's reasonable for 24-year-old that's going to make $400 or $500 million. But I think the Padres having made that trade that they made, would much prefer to keep him than lose him after 2024. And I think Juan Soto is going to have a ton of huge moments this year and in 2024 and beyond. I think he's a fully capable. I mean, he's the front runner still to win National League MVP 2 weeks into the season. So it's, again, yeah, I think it's a fair question. I do. Because again, if you've been watching and you've only been watching him as a Padre, there's reasons for, disappointment or to be upset with some of his play. I think some of it is absolutely fair. I don't know if all of it is fair. I thought he had a decent postseason with the Padres. I thought he had some big moments. No doubt. His regular season last year after getting traded was not up to his standards. These first 2 weeks have, left something to be desired. It's been fine. I don't think it's been terrible. His worst career month is April. And here we are in April, and he's not having a great start to the year. I thought he had a nice WBC, had a nice spring training. I thought it would carry over. I still do. I mean, we're not even at the 10% point of the season, right? 10% of the games would be 16, 17 games. We're at 14 games. So it can turn quickly, and hopefully it does. I mean, again, I think the attention and the criticism will only increase on Soto if 14 games becomes 21 games, becomes 28 games, and he's hitting 200 with an OPS sub 800. I think there'll even be more and more people asking questions like that, Yvonne. But right now, like a lot of the issues going on right now with the Padres, I'm not worried. I'm not overly concerned. I'm just a little bit surprised that they haven't looked a little bit more in tune to start the season, whether that's individually or collectively. Yeah, there is something about this hot talent lava. There is something about the fact that they can play in front of some huge crowds in San Diego and be very quiet. We've seen it really over the last 3 years, 2021, 2022, 2023. Not always. I mean, we also saw 5 Alfaro walk-off moments last year. So it's not like every single time they play at home, they lose. They had a winning record last year at home. I don't know what their 2021 home record was, but I would presume it was a winning record as well. But yeah, they struggle to score at home. I mean, they have struggled to score at home. I think outside of 2020, but 2020 was 2-month season, and it was July and August, and the weather was warm, and the ball jumps a little more. I really do believe that the offense is going to look fine, and hopefully better than fine with Tatis back in it. I think you give it a little bit of time. Everyone's playing together. Tatis, Machado, Soto, Bogarts just doesn't make sense that you wouldn't be one of the better offenses in baseball, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to bet on that, like just the eye test, that they'll find ways to be a really good offense. And I'm not saying it's going to happen the day that Tatis returns, but I think that if we give it a little bit of time, there's a good reason to believe that the offense is going to be good. And then for whatever reason, sometimes on the road, they look like a completely different offense. At least they did in Atlanta. Not necessarily, though, at Citi Field against the Mets. Well, Pedro, you watch and listen. I mean, we do criticize. I think I'm as honest about the Padres and Jim as well as really most people, probably in the local media, if we're being honest with each other. But having spent 15 years working in professional baseball, did you know that? I worked in minor league baseball. I mean, I'm not going to panic off 7-7. I'll criticize. I've been criticizing Blake Snell. I've been critical of Austin Nola. I've told you right now, I mean, the Soto numbers aren't where you'd like them to be. The Machado numbers aren't where you'd like them to be. Machado's got a 640 OPS, but it's also 14 games. So, like, just because he has 640 OPS today doesn't mean he has a 640 OPS after 162. So I think it's a fair point and question. I'd say give him more time. I think there'll be a point. I used to say there were like 3 checkpoints in a season, maybe 4: Memorial Day, July 4th, Labor Day, and then the end of the season. So I guess kind of 4. Clearly, we're not just going to wait till Memorial Day and not judge these players. We're in the business of reacting positively and negatively every single day. It's just I don't think it's fair personally for me today to say, burn the thing down. What an embarrassment. This offense is a joke and they're not going to hit this year because I don't believe that. But do I think there's some concerning trend lines? Yeah, they can't hit with men in scoring position. They haven't been good situationally. And Blake Snell's been bad. Bullpen's been up and down. Bullpen was fine tonight. That they need an eighth inning guy. They will clearly need an eighth inning guy. So it's not about me criticizing. It's not about us being worried. It's about, are the trend lines going to continue like this or not? If they continue like this, it's problematic. If it turns, they're 1 3-game winning streak away from being 3 games over 500 for the first time this year, or they're 1 3-game losing streak from being 3 games under 500 for the first time this year. So we'll react as we have to, right? Day in and day out. Like Alex says, keep the faith. And I would. I would absolutely keep the faith, off a 7-7 start. If they're 3-11 right now, I'd be concerned and I'd be worried. I really would. But they're not 3-11. They're 7-7. Adam, thank you for the comment. Again, thank you guys for hanging out. Please subscribe, smash the like button, follow me on Twitter at John Schaefer. Thank you for the supers. Just click the $ below the chat box. Adam says Juan Soto has a career 719 OPS at Petco. Since he got here last year, he can't hit at Petco for some reason. Yeah, accurate. He has not hit at Petco for whatever reason. Yeah, that's accurate. And I think it can be hard for some to hit at Petco. And that's been documented and discussed a lot. Not everyone. Look at what Bogarts has done to start the year. But yeah, I think that's accurate, Adam. Yeah, he has struggled at Petco Park. Well said. Ben, what's going on, man? Good to have you in the chat. Appreciate you hanging out tonight. He says, I think the most frustrating thing is this is the same conversation we've had as fans for the last few years. It worked out in 2022, but it didn't work out in 2021. This should not still be happening. Yeah, you're thinking about just what? Just like this kind of turning over and this offense being better than what we have seen so far. I agree with that. It's like in the offseason, you're like, man, look at this team. And this is the last couple of off seasons. You're thinking to yourself, man, we got Tatis and Machado. And then, man, we got Tatis and Machado and Soto. And then, man, we got Tatis, Machado, Soto, Bogarts. And then you pair them with players like Jake Cronenworth, Ha-Seong Kim, Trent Grisham, who's, had a power stroke here to start the year. And you think to yourself, well, that should be more than enough. That should be more than enough. Even if there's a weak link in the lineup, like the catcher spot, that should be more than enough to create rallies and create offense and win games and have some crooked numbers in there. And that's happened occasionally this year, but not nearly enough. And part of me, and I've been saying this on the radio, is like I'm kind of waiting until Tatis is here to make a full assessment, fair or unfair. And part of me is also waiting for Joe Musgrove to be here to make a fair assessment. But the truth is, we don't know. You could get Musgrove back, and then you could have another injury in your rotation, or you could get Tatis back, and someone else could struggle or be on the IL. So you can't just sit around waiting all season for the perfect 26-man roster because it may never present itself. We don't know if we'll get Tatis and Musgrove and Suarez and Pomerantz and whomever else all together on the roster at the same time. But that's basically every team in baseball, right? This is something you have to deal with over the course of the season. So I'm with you, Ben. I think regardless of whether they're quote-unquote 100% or not, they should be playing better than what we've seen so far. And if this continues for a long period of time, there'll be more and more concerns. But at 14 games and on April 13th, I'd be lying, honestly, if I said I'm overly concerned and I don't want to lie to you guys about it because I'm not overly concerned right now. But things change. And if this continues for another 2 weeks and they fall 3 or 4 games under 500, which nobody wants to see, then there'll be more reasons to be concerned, That's how I look at it. Okay, guys, I do want to remind you about our longtime partner here on the Wrap-Up Show, great supporter of this channel, our friends over at Aura. Will, their co-founder, is a huge Padres fan. He's also a San Diegan. This is an amazing company. All of their products are plant-based. There is a link down below on YouTube. Just click the description to get to that link down below. ORA.organic. I take their probiotic every single day. I get it delivered every single month, auto renew. I take it every day for digestion, heart health, mental clarity, and all kinds of reasons. They have proteins for after workouts. They have pre-workout supplements, omega-3 oils. If you're taking a fish oil, you can take an omega-3 oil from Aura. They also have sleep pills and immunity pills. Really an amazing company. Based in San Diego, offices in Liberty Station. They've been working with us for over a year. I've been taking their probiotic for over a year. Jim's been using their protein products for over a year. So we really do highly recommend Aura. If you're looking to get healthier, if you take supplements, these are affordable. They are plant-based. The company does business in San Diego and works with us here on the Wrap-Up Show. So again, if you're looking to get healthier, whether it's yourself or your spouse, your family, or your friends, please support our partner here on the Wrap-Up Show, Aura. That is ora.organic. Again, ora.organic, or click the description down below on YouTube and you get a link there directly. All right, Padres lose again to the Brewers tonight, 4-3, game one of a 4-game series. Padres didn't get Brandon Woodruff tonight, but they made Colin Ray look like Brandon Woodruff. They will not get Corbin Burns later this series, and we'll see if the Padres can find a way to win at least 2 of the next 3 games in this series to get a split, and hopefully even better than that. Maybe they can find a way to win each of the next 3 games. But again, they lose game 1 at the beginning of what is a challenging stretch. I mean, it's been a challenging stretch, truthfully, with Atlanta and New York, but you're getting Milwaukee and Atlanta at home, in Arizona, which has been a little bit of a house of horrors for the Padres. The Cubs, we'll see. But then to Mexico City. So a little bit of a lengthy road trip. Fernando Tatis Jr.'s return on that trip. How will he deal with everything that surrounds him? Media, opposing fans, a return to the big leagues for the first time in how many months? 20 months, something like that. So that's what's to come here for the Padres over the next couple of weeks. Caleb, thank you. Good point. Better position than the Phillies and the Cardinals right now. And by the way, neither of those 2 teams have played their way out, obviously. The old adage of, you can't win a pennant or you can't win a division in April, but you sure can lose it. You can't really lose anything in April. I mean, unless you're a really bad team. Certainly if you started 2-20, 3-14, you're putting yourself behind an 8 ball, and you're probably not a very good team if you're starting 2-20 or 3-14. So maybe a team like that could play themselves out in the first 20, 25 games. But, a team that's 4 games under, 25 games in, with a good roster, has not played themselves out of anything. And this is 13 games in for, some of these teams, 14 games in for the Padres. So none of these quote unquote good teams have played their way out of anything at this point. Let me get to this. So what is this? PodSin69 says San Diego press is soft. I don't know who he's referring to. I don't know if he's referring to me, Jim, others. We get typically criticized for being the opposite, to be honest. In fact, just yesterday on the radio, someone tweeted in and said, man, if you're going to be as critical as you are of the Padres, I hope you also, sing a tune for the things that have gone well so far for the Padres. And we're trying to treat it, level-headed and equally. And there have been some good things like the Wakas and the Lugos, like the Bogarts, like Josh Hader. There's been a number of good individual stories. There have been good series. I mean, the series against the Braves, winning 3 straight games and 3 out of 4 overall. They had a 6-2 run after they started 0-2. So yeah, there's been some good and there's been some not so good. And that's why they're exactly 500 right now at 7-7 overall. Yeah, I'm concerned about this too. I don't know if Pomerantz is going to pitch for this team. I'm definitely concerned about that. I don't know if I should be concerned. I didn't have any expectations that he was going to pitch for this team this year, but with each passing day, it becomes more likely. I won't say he won't pitch for this team. I think with each passing day, it becomes more likely he won't make a positive impact for this team. I have no idea if he pitches. It's only April, so maybe he does. I mean, there's so much time in the season. If he's beginning a rehab stint at some point, even in the next week, you can only rehab, I think, as a pitcher for 30 days in the minor league. So at some point, they're going to have a decision to make with Drew Pomerantz, and it's probably a decision they'll need to make before like June of this year. But am I counting on Drew Pomerantz? No, there is no chance in hell I'm counting on Drew Pomerantz. Would it be a pleasant surprise if he impacts this team in a positive way? Yeah. And would you take it? Yeah. Look at his career numbers with the Padres since coming back. They're great, with the caveat if he's never available. 47 appearances. I talked about it earlier today on the radio. Something like 47 appearances, 44 innings, and they've been good appearances, good innings. The problem is we haven't seen him since, I think, August 10th, 2021. If he comes back in May or June, you're talking about 22 months since his last appearance in the big leagues. That's not easy. So I'm just not expecting him to pay dividends this year. Unfortunately, I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he proves a lot of people wrong, because if he does pay dividends, if he becomes the pitcher he's capable of being and stays healthy for a 80-game stretch or the postseason, that could be a difference maker. If you have Pomerantz, Hader, Suarez, Garcia in your back end, and they're healthy and effective, you got as good of a back end as you could possibly ask for, the type of back end that could win a World Series. If you don't have Suarez, if you don't have Pomerantz, and you just have Hader and then serviceable to good pieces in addition to Hader, that's a lot different than what I was talking about just a moment ago. I agree, Todd. Just kidding. Just kidding, Jim. There's no way Jim's watching, right? He's probably sitting actually in Cabo, literally like on his phone watching this entire thing. So, the other thing is, and I see the chat right here, we've been having this Campusano-Nola conversation, and this idea that all of a sudden Campusano is going to be getting a lot of playing time because he's hit a little bit in his first 4 starts and the Padres have won. Well, the Padres don't feel the same way we feel or fans feel right now, because look at the fact that Austin Nola is, he started back-to-back games even this week. I mean, yesterday in New York, today. He appears to be the personal catcher for a couple of these starters. So somebody's going to need to make a decision on Campusano at some point. I think the Padres brass still is leaning towards Austin Nola to be the lion's share catcher. And they're leaning more on his, I don't even know, his experience, skill set, defensive, abilities. Theoretically, he doesn't throw anyone out, but, his ability to call a game, I think they're leaning more on him and saying that the offense is more of a bonus, and we'd prefer to have the catcher that is, calling the better game than the up-and-coming prospect catcher. Now, with that being said, I think Campusano has caught well, called games well, has showed a little bit of pop and power, has had some moments. Padres have done well in his start. So I do expect it to even or shift eventually. I just don't know when it's going to happen right now. It's more like Campusano getting 30% of the starts and Nola getting 70% of the starts. And people are talking like it's going to shift 70-30 the other way. It's just not immediately. Could it? I think it could, but I think we're a long way from that. I think it might go from 70-30 Nola to 60-40, maybe eventually 50-50, and maybe eventually in the other direction. But I don't think it's going to happen overnight. And, you could argue whether that's the right decision or the wrong decision. And, Nola has clearly struggled in a variety of areas to start the year. It's not just at the plate. Teams have run all over the Padres to start the year. Clearly, pitchers like throwing to him, right? There's no question about that. But, I think the Padres catching situation is not a good one. I think it's a below average situation with some upside because of Campusano, but there was a reason they were pursuing catchers, I think, in free agency to start the offseason, because they knew that, they didn't necessarily have enough, or it might be a little bit of a liability. I think what they were thinking, and I agree with this assessment, is, well, we can't pay $100 million for every position. We can't be plus at every position. And if our lineup has, 6 or 7 good pieces and 1 or 2 that aren't as capable, we're still in a good spot. If we got 4 or 5 all-star caliber hitters in our lineup, we're going to be in a good spot. And I agree with that. I mean, you can't go out and buy every single position, and you got to live with what you have sometimes. And Austin Nola's going to hit better than 100, obviously. I mean, he's a much better hitter than that. But again, is he going to give you much on offense? No. I don't think he's going to give you some crazy offensive production, especially off the way he has started this year. Now, I think Campusano has the ability to give you real offensive production. I think Campusano has that ability. But I'm not willing to say that Campusano all of a sudden is, going to hit 285 with power if you play him 100 times, because I just haven't seen enough. I'd love to see it. I hope he could hit 285 with power and catch 100 games. But I mean, we're talking about the smallest of sample sizes, having started 4 games. Yes. Yeah, I think that is fair. Yeah, I like it as a 2-man show. I think Jim gets the best out of me, and I think I get the best out of Jim, and we like the back and forth, the camaraderie. But Jim's in Cabo, and next week I'm going to be away, and he'll do some shows. So we do them for you day in, day out, regardless of who's available. Is the point? That's the point. What else, guys? What else? Let me get to this. Thank you, Vince, for the super. Thank you, guys. Really do appreciate it. Do appreciate the supers here on this Thursday evening. Padres lose to the Brewers in 10 4-3. If you want to contribute with the super chat, if you want to become a member, click the $ below the chat box. We do greatly appreciate it. Or click the join button, and you will get custom emojis and badges when you become a member. A number of you here tonight in the chat are members. So Vince says, is 7-7 to start the season any cause for concern? So Vince, maybe you just hopped in. We've talked about this occasionally here over the course of the last 50 minutes or so. I would say, honestly, as clearly as I can say it, no. The record isn't cause for concern. The cause for concern is what's going on behind the record. Why are they 7-7? How have they gotten here? 7-7 is not problematic. 3-11 is problematic. 7-7 is not problematic. But are there things behind the record, trend lines that are not encouraging? Yes, I do believe there are. Some things that are a little concerning that can be overcome in a short period of time, like a series or two. Everything can be rectified quickly. I had Doug Lanville on the radio, I think last week. It was about 7 games into the season. He's like, small sample size, but this team has not been a good defensive team. That's accurate. We've talked about some of the up and down elements of this offense, and they're not getting the most out of this offense right now. They're just not. I mean, Manny Machado and Juan Soto have not played up to their abilities so far. Not to say they've been anemic. I don't think they've been anemic, but they have not been all-star or MVP caliber like people expect them to be. Bogarts has been great, as we know. Cronenworth has not performed. And then, starting pitching-wise, you haven't gotten anything really out of Darvish. You got 104 pitches, I think, his last outing, but he hasn't won in his first 2 starts, and he was a little bit behind because of the WBC. You've got nothing out of Musgrove, not his fault. He was hurt. And then Snell's been awful. He's been flat out awful. And that's because he's not going deep into games and because he's thrown as many balls as strikes by and large this year. He's like, someone look it up, 55-45 strike the ball, maybe even worse than that percentage-wise. And he's got a 7 ERA through 3 starts. And you were hoping he's picking up the slack in the absence of pitchers like Joe Musgrove or Yu Darvish, and he hasn't picked up the slack. And this has been a very concerning thing in his Padres career in the first halves of seasons. So, hopefully it turns. I think it's capable of turning because we've seen it turn before with Blake Snell. But no, the record isn't the cause for concern. But what we're seeing day in and day out, and everyone here is watching this day in and day out, and what you're watching is concerning. But the end result 7-7 is not concerning, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. Is this accurate, Chad, that Nola's caught stealing percentage is that bad? Like historically bad? I mean, I know to start the year it's historically bad, but it's like, that's a really small sample size as well. But is that, I mean, that's bad, and that's a concern, especially with the larger bases, especially with the inability to throw over as much. Teams are running more. So that could be leveraged against you. You can lose games, Yeah, and I agree. Chad. It is. It could be a huge issue. It can cost you games. I don't think it's going to cost you dozens of games, but it can cost you games. And a team that's trying to win a division, equal or surpass the greatest win total in a regular season, get to a World Series or win it. Yeah, again, we're talking about the things. The 7-7 is not the problem, but cutting down on an opponent's run game is a problem. And there's what's the fix? What's the easy fix there? Who's coming? I mean, who's going to save that? How are they going to do that? It's not all on the catchers, by the way. Pitchers need to be quicker to the plate, need to hold runners on, maybe even more so. If the catchers aren't, capable of throwing guys out, Let's see what else, guys. I mean, it's so early that, even late, you don't really overreact to one game unless you kind of have to because your season is on the line. Great point, Quan. I remember that. The starts of the year, they were clean defensively. It's not been the case. Even yesterday in New York, that ball between Soto and Grisham has to be made. Absolutely has to be made at the big league level. Can never not be made. Has to be made 99.99% of the time, and it wasn't. And you lose a close game. And that's one of the reasons why you lose a close game. You give them a free run. You can't give good teams free runs, you know? So, I mean, that's basically the story tonight. I mean, there's more, obviously. I missed the first inning or two. I think I was either driving home or I was with my son. And you like to win when you score first at home. They did. You like to win when you get a huge, massive pick me up moment like Trent Grisham's. They got that, but they just didn't win the game. And Milwaukee's good. I don't think Milwaukee's going to be some 60-win team. I think Milwaukee's going to be good. I thought they were good last year as well. So Milwaukee's good, but again, no Woodruff, no Burns. At worst, got to find a way to split this series, right? Got to find a way to split this series right now, which means winning 2 of the next 3. So let's see if they bounce back this weekend. Vince, appreciate it. Again, really do. He says, sorry, joined late. What do we think of Martinez going back to the bullpen? Darvish, Musgrove, Snell, Waka, Lugo, Weathers already solid. Martinez has not started well. I thought Martinez was fine tonight, giving you 6 innings. They'll have some real decisions to make because of innings limits that they're going to push up against. Like a Lugo hasn't gone more than 80 innings in years. Waka is going to have innings restrictions. I think I'd prefer when Musgrove comes back. I think I'm going to a 5-man rotation and going to an 8-man bullpen. And here's why. Because at the end of this long stretch in April where you've played 24 games in 25 days or 23 games in 24 days, I forget what it is. And I always go back and forth and I just don't look it up. At the end of that, you play, I want to say you have 5 off days in a 15-day stretch. And one of those is a Mexico City off day. And then there's some others that are just built in inherently to the schedule. But if you have 5 off days in a 15-day stretch, I think I have that right. It's 5 off days in a 15-day stretch, or maybe 5 off days within 15 games. Either way, you can't use a 6-man rotation because then with the off days, it essentially becomes you're pitching every 7th or 8th day. That's way too much time. Plus, you're not getting the most out of the top of your rotation, like, Darvish, who you just paid, like Musgrove, who you just paid, and like Snell, who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So you should be starting him if you think he's capable of helping the team. So I go 5-man rotation, at least for a period of time, late April into May, and see how it works. And I feel like that might benefit the bullpen as well. So with all that being said, 1, if not 2 of these guys are going to move to the bullpen because my strategy is get Musgrove back and then you're moving 2 starters because you're going from a 6-man to a 5-man, plus you're adding in Joe Musgrove. So they're going to have to protect the innings of guys like Waka, Lugo, Weathers, Martinez somewhere. And maybe they'll rotate through based on who's got a hot hand or who doesn't. Maybe they'll skip a turn. Maybe they'll make someone a long man for 1 or 2 turns. But they're going to have decisions to make, Vince, to your point. I mean, it could be someone like Martinez. It could be someone like Lugo. And you might be saying, well, Lugo's been great. Yeah, but he doesn't throw a lot of innings. You don't go from 80 innings to 150 innings in the big leagues, especially when you might need valuable innings in the postseason. And you're just asking for trouble when that happens. So it's been a great start for Waka and Lugo, and to some extent Ryan Weathers as well. But it's something to keep an eye on. Maybe not in April, but even come May, they'll be massaging some of these innings restrictions. They'll be looking at where they can buy an extra day or an extra turn with some of these pitchers. If I was guessing, just based on how important innings limits and restrictions are with pitchers in the big leagues right now. So it's a good point, Vince. We'll see what they ultimately end up doing. Run it back. Thank you, man. Appreciate the super. He says, can't use 2 position players to replace 1 catcher. Can't use 2 position. Run it back. Explain the overall point. I'm tired. Put another comment in the chat. I mean, the point is accurate. You can't do that. It's a little bit like having 2 quarterbacks means you don't have a quarterback. It feels like with these catchers, I think Campisano's got the upside. I want to see it. And I think Nola, I don't know. He's been a liability, obviously, to start the year. So it's like, do they have enough behind the plate to get through 162 and then win in the postseason? I thought Nola last year in the postseason was important, clearly. Had a big caught stealing of, was it Mookie Betts in that Dodgers series? That was massive. Caught every single inning of the postseason. So clearly they trust him a lot, right? I mean, you get to the National League Championship Series, but yeah, I just, based on what we've seen to start the year, it leaves a lot to be desired. It really does. It really does. Yeah, and tonight, yeah, that's right, Quan. Because how many at bats or plate appearances did Nola have? Not more than two. Not more than two. Um, in the game. So they're aware. They're aware of the fact that he has struggled offensively to start the year, obviously. So, okay, guys, I think that'll probably do it here for the night. Let me just check something real quick. And again, if you're here, please subscribe, smash the like button, and follow me on Twitter at John Schaefer. We are back tomorrow night for game 2 of this series. Also, join us from the Blind Burrow. That is downtown, across from the Western Metal Supply Company building, right there, right at Petco Park. So join us tomorrow, 3 to 6, John and Jim, broadcasting live. If you're making your way to Petco Park, get out of work maybe a little bit early, come say hi, have a drink, grab a bite to eat, some tacos. Blind Burrow, great spot, indoor, outdoor, right across from Petco Park. Whether you have tickets or not, great spot just to watch a game from across the street at Petco Park. Please support our partners, whether it is Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance, a San Diegan that is a great insurance agent. He really is. Click the description down below. You'll find a link for Mark Nimitz's website. The next time you have a renewal, please get in contact with Mark. Ora.organic. Again, great plant-based nutrition company, Ora.organic. Click the link down below to find out all of their products, probiotics, proteins, omega-3 oils, and more. And Underdog Fantasy, if you use promo code PODSWRAP, PADSWRAP, you will get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Great fantasy company because it's so easy. You don't have to deal with waivers and trades. You just draft and then set it and forget it. You don't set anything. Underdog Fantasy takes care of all of it. So if you've ever wanted to get into daily fantasy, weekly, season long, do it now. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code PODSWRAP, PADSWRAP. Again, PODSWRAP, get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Yeah, like you said, Chad, there's always tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. It is tough to lose the way they lost tonight. I agree with you. You get a big hit like that, you think you're going to find a way. There's always tomorrow. Let's see if they can get at least 2 of the next 3. Of course, 3 of the next 3 would be unbelievable. Interesting for Miles saying they don't win on bobblehead nights. You know, you have the huge crowd. They're there all night long. Great giveaway. Soto goes hitless on his bobblehead night. Still cool giveaway, obviously. Just trying to get to a couple of others. Yeah, I let this ride all night, Shango Surfo, but you're welcome here. You are welcome, positive or negative. You're welcome here. But yeah, like chill. It's 14 games in. All right, let's chill. It's not time to fire Bob Melvin or change the entirety of the roster or trade Blake Snell or trade once. I mean, come on, it's 14 games. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. All right, guys. Appreciate you hanging out. We will do it again tomorrow night after Padres and Brewers game 2. Oh, look at this, Rich. I will. I'll text Jim. Rich, text him. He's on his phone constantly. He's like, I'm going to be away from my phone. Text him right now. I'll get back to you literally in 2 seconds. I guarantee it. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Again, Brewers take game 1. We'll be back with you tomorrow night after game 2. All right. Peace. Have a good night.